In this video, I will show you how to prove that two triangles are congruent and then use their corresponding parts to find unknowns. But first of all, there are 5 ways to prove that triangles are congruent. And here they are. Side, 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 angle, side, angle, side, angle, 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 side, and hypotenuse leg. Here are 2 options that do not work. These do not prove that triangles are congruent. Side, side, angle does not work, nor does angle, angle, angle. So just to make sure we remember that, I'm going to put one of those circles with a line through it. No, none of that. None of that. Forget about it. Now, I'll refer back to these later. When we look at problem number 1, let's see which one of these methods will prove that the triangles are congruent. Look at the combination of information that we have. I see that we have 2 sides and an angle. So whenever we have 2 sides and an angle, that narrows it down to either this one, or this one, or this one. All 3 of these involve 2 sides and an angle. Now, let's start with hypotenuse leg. Hypotenuse is something that only a right triangle has. So, are these right triangles? Yes. So that means this is a possibility. Now, is the hypotenuse one of the congruent sides? The hypotenuse, for example, is right here. This is a hypotenuse. It is across from the 90-degree angle. Notice that the hypotenuse is not marked in any way. So that tells us that this will not be hypotenuse leg. So we can forget about that. So now it's down to either side angle side or side side angle, which is not a thing. It doesn't work. So the way I tell the difference is by using the word between. See how the A is between the S's? That means the angle has to be between the sides. Now, if the angle is not between the sides, that's how you know that it's going to be side-side angle. Here, let me use purple. All right, it'll be side-side angle if the angle is not between. So, between or not between, that is the question. So, looking back at problem number 1, here is one side, and here is the other side. I'm talking about the sides that are marked. Look where they meet. They meet right here at this angle, and that is the angle that was marked. So, this angle is between the sides. So since it is between, that means side angle side is the answer. Okay, what about B? For B, I see that again we have 2 sides and an angle. So again, when you have 2 sides and an angle, these are the 3 possibilities. Start with hypotenuse leg. It is a right triangle, so maybe, where's the hypotenuse, people? Here's the hypotenuse right here. Last time it had no mark. This time it is marked. So we have a hypotenuse, looking good for hypotenuse leg. And in fact, any other side is called a leg. So we have a hypotenuse and a leg. That definitely makes this hypotenuse leg. All right, let's look at part C. We have 2 sides and an angle again. So again, that means we will narrow it down to these three choices. All of these three choices involve three sides and an angle. Okay, in fact, while I'm thinking about it, I should mention that hypotenuse leg is just another version of side-side angle. It's a special case of side-side angle. It's side-side angle for right triangles. All right, now, for part C, we have two sides and an angle. Are they right triangles? No, these are not right angles, so we can forget about hypotenuse leg. So now it comes down to, is the angle between the sides or not between the sides? Okay, well, the sides are here. That's one marked side, and here is another marked side. Here's where they meet, right here. This is the angle that's between. The angle that they gave us is not that angle. It's not between. That means that this is a side-side angle situation, which does not prove anything. So we're going to go ahead and say can't be proven. Can't prove the triangles are congruent, because it would be this one. All right, let me reset for the next problem. Okay. Now, some additional information that we need to include here. Vertical angles. When you see the X, angles that are across from each other are called vertical angles, and vertical angles are always congruent, so we should go ahead and mark them. So, I have two angles and a side. How does that narrow it down? Okay, so I have two angles and a side. That means it's either going to be this one or this one. Both of these involve two angles and a side. So, again, it's going to come down to between and not between. See how the S is between the two A's? So it'll be angle side angle if the side is between the two angles. It'll be angle angle side if the side is not between. Not between the two angles. So between or not between, that is how you should think of it. Well, I see that I have one angle marked here, and I have another angle marked here. If I connect those dots, it shows me the side that is between them, and that is the side that is marked. All right, so the side is between the two angles, so that makes it angle side angle. All right. Now, let's look at the same thing again. Again, we have vertical angles, so we mark them. Again, we have two angles and a side. All right, so we've narrowed it down to these two. But when we go to decide if the side is between the two angles, remember, one angle is here, the other angle is here. This is the side that is between those two angles. But that's not the side they gave us. The side that we have marked is not between. Okay, that makes this angle angle side when it's not between. Okay, angle angle side. All right, part C. One more time, I've got these vertical angles. Let's mark them. Ooh, time for a reset. Brat. This time I have two sides and an angle. So, this is the one that has three possibilities. Two sides and an angle. Could be this one, or it could be this one, because it's really side-side angle, or it could be side-side angle. Side-side angle doesn't work though, so that's why it's not listed. First of all, hypotenuse leg. Is this a right triangle situation? No, we have no right angles anywhere. So it cannot be hypotenuse leg. So it's either going to be side angle side or side angle, which is not a thing. And what matters is whether or not the angle is between the sides. If it's between, then it's side angle side. If it's not between, then it is side angle, which doesn't work. So trace the sides for me, please. Will you? Can you? Here's one side that's marked congruent. Here's the other side that's marked congruent. Look where they meet. They meet right here, and that is the angle that we have marked. So the angle is between the sides, which means side angle side is the answer. Okay, I guess I can just scroll back and forth a little bit. So looking at this problem, problem number 3. There's something that we need to mark. We have a shared side. These two triangles share this side. So we can just go ahead and just mark that because it will automatically be congruent since it is the same side. Now, that means if I look at one triangle at a time, okay, so for example, just focus your eyes on the top triangle. Ignore the bottom triangle for a moment. Okay, focusing on the top triangle, I have two angles and a side. All right, which means I need to reset this. Okay, I have two angles and a side, so that narrows it down to either this or this. So, is the side between the angles or not between? Okay. Well, when I ask myself the question, is the side between the angles? Here's one angle, here's the other angle. This is the side that's between the two angles. And yes, that is the side that is marked. So the side is between the two angles. So that's why we're going to choose angle, side, angle. Okay, part B. Again, start off by marking the shared side. Then focus your eyeballs on one triangle at a time. So just focus on this triangle for a moment. Do you see that we have two angles and a side marked? All right, that's similar to before. Two angles and a side. It will be either one of these. Is the side between the two angles or not between? Well, my two angles are here and here. If I connect those, this is the side that's between. Notice that this side is different. So the marked side is not between the two angles. So that's why this is going to be angle, angle, side. Not between. All right, one more time. Here is the shared side. Focus on one triangle at a time. Okay. Once again, I have two angles and a side. So again, it will be one of these two choices. So look at it. I have one angle here and I have another angle marked here. If I connect these dots, it shows me that this is the side between those two angles. But that is different than the side that they gave us. So this side is not between the angles, which makes this angle, angle, side. Again. look at problem number 4a. First of all, we have vertical angles right here, so we know they will be congruent. All right, when you have the x, that's vertical angles, show that they are equal. Now, we have this extra piece of information right here. C is the midpoint of BD. Notice they're talking about BD. Focus on that for a second. BD is this right here. So if C is the midpoint of this yellow, that means that this side is going to be congruent to this side. All right, so I'm going to erase the yellow now so we can see a little bit better. We also know that angle B is congruent to angle D. All right, so let's do a double swoop for angle B and a double swoop for angle D. All right, now focus on just one triangle at a time. So for example, if I focus on this triangle, I see that I have two angles and a side. Two angles and a side. That narrows it down to either this or this. All right, so the question is the side between the angles or not between the angles? Well, the angles are here and here. If I connect those, this is the side that's between them. And that is the side that we have marked. So the side is between, so angle, side, angle. All right, so angle, side, angle proves that the triangles are congruent. So we need to go one step further and make a congruence statement. Triangle ABC is congruent to triangle. Well, A is the blank angle, and so is E. So E comes first. Next, look at angle B. Angle B is the double swoop. Angle D has the double swoop. And then that just leaves angle C. Okay, moving on to number 4, part B. Again, we have the vertical angles, so let's get that out of the way. C is the midpoint of AE. That's different than before. AE this time. So notice here is AE. If C is the midpoint of that yellowness, that means that this side is going to be congruent to this side. All right, I can erase the yellow now. In addition to that, we are told that angle B is congruent to angle D. Okay, look at one triangle at a time. For example, look at this triangle right here. What information do we have? We have two angles and a side. So that's just like before, so it will narrow down to these two choices. Is the side that we have marked between the two angles, or is it not between? Well, here's an angle that we have marked, and here's another angle. If I connect those, it shows that this is the side between. But this side over here, the side that's marked is different. It's not between. That's why this will be angle, angle, side. Okay, now let's make the congruence statement. Angle A is congruent to angle E. Both of those are blank. Angle B has the double swoop, congruent to angle D. And that just leaves angle C. Okay, number 5, part A. All right, number 5, part A. I see that we have a shared side CB. So let's go ahead and mark that as congruent for both triangles. Now, segment BC bisects angle ACD. When you see a bisecting statement like this, something bisects something, always start with the second thing first. ACD. Where is that? So here is ACD. All right, so that is the angle that is being bisected. Bisect means cut in half. So that means that this side of the angle is going to equal to this side of the angle. It's being cut right in half. All right, in addition to that, we're told that segment AB is congruent to segment DB. So let's mark those congruent. Okay, now look at one triangle at a time. So for example, look at this triangle. All right, what parts do we have marked as congruent? We have two sides and an angle. Interesting, two sides and an angle. That narrows it down to three possibilities. It will either be side angle side, hypotenuse leg, which is actually two sides and an angle, but it has to be right triangle, or it could be side side angle, which is actually doesn't prove anything congruent. Let's start with hypotenuse leg. Is this a right triangle? No, I don't see a little box or anything. This is not a right triangle, so we cannot use hypotenuse leg. Only a right triangle has a hypotenuse. So the only question is the angle that we have between the two sides, or is it not between the two sides? So let's see. I think we should trace the sides. Here's one of the sides that we have marked. Here's the other side that we have marked. Notice that they meet over here at angle B, at point B. But the angle that we have marked is way over here at C. So the angle is not between the sides. So if the angle is not between the sides, that means this is side-side angle, which proves nothing. So we're going to circle, we can't prove the triangles are congruent. And we're going to leave this blank. If the triangles can't be proven congruent, you cannot make a congruence statement. Moving on to number 5, part B. We have the shared sides, so let's go ahead and mark that. Oh, we have another bisector statement. Segment BC bisects angle ABD. Start with the second part, angle ABD. All right, ABD is out here. ABD. All right, this is the angle that is being bisected. This is the angle that is being cut in half. Which means that this half is congruent to this half. What else? AB is congruent to DB. Let me go ahead and erase this yellow stuff. So given AB is congruent to DB. Now focus on one triangle at a time. For example, focus on this triangle right here. Notice the parts that we have. We have two sides and an angle. When you have two sides and an angle, there are three possibilities. It'll either be side angle side, hypotenuse leg, or side-side angle, which doesn't prove anything. Again, this is not a right triangle, so it can't be hypotenuse leg. So we can just go ahead and erase that immediately. So is the angle between the sides or not between? Let's do a little bit of tracing. Here's one of the sides that we have marked. Here is the other side. Notice that the sides meet at angle B, and that is the angle that we have marked. So the angle is between the two sides. So we're going to go with side angle side. So this time we will need a congruence statement. Triangle ABC is congruent to triangle what. It might be helpful to just look at the symmetry here. Notice that the yellow triangle and the white triangle are like mirror images of each other. So angle A and angle D are mirror images of each other. So I'm going to put angle D in the same spot as angle A. And then angle B. Angle B is going to match angle B, all right? They're side by side. Look how they're, it's marked congruent for both triangles, both at angle B. And that leaves angle C to match angle C. Okay, how about problem number 6? Again, we have a shared side, so let's start with that. Let's go ahead and mark that. Angle B and angle D are right angles. Okay, interesting. So let's put the little box in there. These are right angles. In addition, we know that segment AB is congruent to segment AD. These are congruent. All right. It's time to try to prove that these two triangles are congruent. Focus on one triangle at a time for this part. So I'm going to focus on this triangle right here, for example. Now, what parts do we have marked? I see that we have two sides and an angle. So whenever we have two sides and an angle, there are three possibilities. Side angle side, hypotenuse leg, or side side angle, which doesn't work. Always start with hypotenuse leg. It has to be a right triangle for hypotenuse leg to be possible. We do have right angles, so maybe. So now let's just look and see, is it the hypotenuse and a leg? Well, this is the hypotenuse of the yellow triangle. It's across from the 90 degrees. So that is marked. Any other side other than the hypotenuse is a leg. So this is a leg and this is the hypotenuse. So hypotenuse leg proves it. The triangles are congruent. So time to make our congruence statement. Now, sometimes these are mirror images of each other, and sometimes they're sort of flipped backwards. In this case, I'm hoping you can see that these are just mirror images of each other. So, angle A is going to match angle A. All right, they are just right across from each other. It's the same angle on both sides. So I'll put angle A. And then, of course, angle B matches angle D. And then angle C will match up with the other angle C. We have to be careful because sometimes these get flipped backwards and then A will match with C. But if they are just right across from each other, like a mirror, A stays with A and C stays with C. All right. This video is getting long, so let's just do this one more problem and then we'll save the rest for another video. Okay, last one. First of all, let's go ahead and mark the shared side. Angle B and angle D are right angles. Let's get that in there. And segment AB is congruent to segment CD. Interesting. All right, so I'm seeing a difference already. On the previous problem, the sides were like mirror images of each other. Okay, they were right across from each other. But these are sort of backwards, right? This one's up here, but this one's down here. It's like it's flipped. Watch out for that later. In the meantime, as we try to decide how to prove these triangles are congruent, let's focus on one triangle at a time. So looking at this triangle, what parts do we have? We have two sides and an angle. So that narrows it down to these three possibilities. Starting with hypotenuse leg, it has to be a right triangle for that. And it is a right triangle, so maybe. Now we have to check and see what we have marked. Is it a hypotenuse and a leg? Well, here's the hypotenuse right here, across from the 90 degrees, and that is one of the sides we have marked. Any other side is a leg, so we actually do have hypotenuse leg. So that's going to prove the triangles are congruent, hypotenuse leg. Now, triangle ABC is congruent to triangle. So be careful. The yellow triangle and the white triangle are flipped backwards. Do you see that side AB, this leg up here? It's not a mirror image. This side does not match this side. Okay, instead, the matching side, the congruent side, is way down low. So that means that these are flipped backwards. So, for example, angle A up here is going to actually correspond to angle C on the white triangle, because the whole triangle I can tell is flipped backwards. All right, so angle A will actually match up with angle C. And so that's really hard for students to understand sometimes. Either way, angle B will match with angle D. But again, when I talk about angle C on the yellow triangle, because this is flipped backwards, this is actually going to match up with angle A on the white triangle. Okay, so angle C corresponds with angle A actually. All right, a lot of students struggle with that.